much. Welcome to a new series. We begin with a very special show. Tonight, my guests are two superstars of such quality, it's like having Mr. Rhodes and Mr. Royce in the studio. Later on, I'll be talking to the man whose music and images informed popular culture in a way other artists can merely dream about. He is David Bowie. Now, my first guest is, in the opinion of Steven Spielberg, a film actor without peer. He's one of only two to win back-to-back Oscars. His latest film is a gem. Directed by Sam Mendes, it's a beautifully crafted gangster movie exploring the complicated relationships between fathers and sons. Ladies and gentlemen, Tom Hanks. Welcome.
Pleasure.
You're very much at home here, in any case, aren't you, in England?
Well, I've worked here twice for quite a bit. We made Saving Private Ryan here at these fabulous facilities out in Hatfield. And then we returned and made Band of Brothers, the television miniseries, at these fabulous facilities out in Hatfield. And I'm looking forward to seeing something other than Hatfield. Not that it's not a lovely town, it is. It's a lovely little village, Hatfield.
Well, this film that we're going to talk about now was made in America. It's a very American movie. It's my favourite genre of movie. I love gangster movies. I would imagine as a film star that growing up watching them, as I did, those wonderful stars in gangster movies, it must have been an ambition of yours to play in a gangster movie of some sort.
Well, on one hand, it's all just about the iconography. You know, you want to wear the suits and you want to wear the hats, and you want to carry the high-powered weapons. But I must say that it's actually a very difficult thing in order to pick that stuff out. I mean, hats alone. Albert Walski was the costume designer, and I must have tried on 200 hats before I could come up. They're made out of straw, they're red, they have big brims, they have short brims, they have fat brims, and it was very, very difficult because, quite frankly, I look ridiculous in a hat. So it was hard to find a hat that I didn't look. Once, as I'm an actor, and once you find that perfect hat to wear, everything else happens.
That was the key to it.
It's all in the hat.
It's got
to be the hat. Yeah.
Olivia used to say it was in the shoes and the walk and that sort of thing. It's just silly, isn't it? I mean, every actor's got his own way of actually finding what they're looking for.
Well, they wanted Conrad Hall, who was a brilliant cinematographer on it, as well as Sam.
I've got to say, it looks like an Edward Hopper picture. I mean,
truly,
it's lovely lights, those ochre colours. It's beautiful.
It's like it was all lit by kerosene lamps sometimes. As a matter of fact, I think it was. Conrad's been around for a while, and I think he works most comfortably in kerosene. But there was a huge difference with Conrad between my head being in this position and my head being in this position. There was a difference between not being able to see the eyes and seeing the eyes. So we had camera tests where I had to just develop the difference between that much. So really, I think I'm going to have to have a pretty disciplined performance here if there's a huge difference between that and that. Yes.
It's a scene with you and Jude Law in that.
Jude Law, yes.
Exactly that. But
the ugly Jude Law.
No, he is
very unattractive lad.
He is incredibly unattractive. That's why I sat there and thought, you're too ugly for movies.
He was overjoyed to do that stuff to himself.
Yes.
He's such a. I looked at him and he had these yellow stained, cracked fingernails. I said, oh God, if he's worked it down to the fingernails, for crying out loud. He's been a pretty boy a little too long, hasn't he?
And also the deeply unattractive Paul Newman.
Yeah, who is still.
He's ugly too, isn't he?
You want to do, when you work with Paul, you want to walk, first of all, you want to act like him. You want to steal everything from him. You want to act like him when you get old. Or when you grow up. You want to look like him when you grow up, but you just want to be as cool as Paul is. He has this way of walking onto the soundstage. You don't even know that it's doing, and yet mentally in everyone's heads, klaxons have gone off, and everybody can mentally hear, Paul Newman has walked on the stage. And everybody's, oh, there he is right there, bathed in his own kerosene light, it would seem.
It's amazing to think that the most American of themes and American of settings that are directed by an Englishman, by Sam Mendes. And he's pulled it off, I think. I mean, I think it's a remarkable piece of work.
Well, I think what Sam did, he got beyond by and large, gangster movies are the stuff of parody now. You know, every comedy show will do a bit, a sketch, a satire on gangsters, and Sam takes this and looks at it, I think, much more of a you know, Chekhovian human drama than anything else. And we were always keying in on the relationship between the fathers and the sons in this, and everything else takes care of itself.
Well, that's central, of course, and it is about that, and it's the line in the film that every father is a hero to his son. When you were doing it, when you were making the film, and that being the theme of it, were there sort of, was it reminiscent of your own childhood, your own relationship with your father? Were you being reminded of what you as a child were thinking about this man, this adult?
You know, I used to watch, I'm terrible with tools. I couldn't fix a screen door if my life depended on it, but my father was miraculous with any sort of tool, a shovel, a wrench, a pair of pliers. And I remember watching him. We were very different, the two of us. I don't think, I was very personal, he was very shy. I was very outgoing, he couldn't be outgoing if he tried. But I remember watching him when he'd be hard at work in the backyard digging or chopping away or something with all the vigor in the world. And I'd always think, who is this guy? How did I end up here? And do I have anything in common with this man whatsoever? And then in the course of it, like growing up, particularly when I got older, we'd find this, you know, a brand of common language that was not really based on thinking the same things, but I think an understanding of each other that stemmed from a degree of admiration. When I started doing theater and I was in high school and college, he would come and see me in shows, and I'd ask him, well, what'd you think of it, Dad? And he'd just go, because he could not understand how a human being could get up and do such things. So when you experience that brand of like awe from your father, where he was looking at me and saying, where did this kid come from? How did you get up here and do this thing? So we were talking about the same hand.
But was he a hero to you?
You know, he was. He was also a burden to me, quite frankly. And I think that's the truth about that line. Every father is a hero to his son. I think every father can also be a burden to his son. At times he was an incredibly intimidating man, just simply because he was uncommunicative from the perspective that he just didn't know what to say. He didn't know how to tell me what was going on in his life. And he's like, my parents were divorced when I was very young. They sort of pioneered the marriage dissolution laws for the state of California. I think there's actually some phrases that have, it's the Hanks law that's on the book, because they did it so long ago, way before it was fashionable. But my father would, I realized when I was growing up, my father would literally, he would say goodbye to all of his kids. We'd go up and see my mother, and he did it every single holiday. So for probably 6 or 7 years, my father did not have a Thanksgiving with us, or a Christmas with us, or an Easter with us, or even a summer holiday. And in that regards, it's like I guess I was confused in the degree that I didn't know if he wanted us around or if he was relieved to have us away.
Yes.
But since then, I must say, he died about 10 years ago. And he married a wonderful lady who's my stepmother, and that was truly the love of his life. And when I got to see him operate in a place where he was truly accepted and truly comfortable, it was a pleasure to see.
You had 10 homes and various stepmoms in all this time you're talking about.
I was a celebrity even then.
It must have been disturbing. It must have been...
You know, I liked it. I must say, I got to this place where if I was ever bored, all I had to do was bide my time for a while, because chances are Dad was going to move in another 6.5 months. And I'll have a whole new group of friends at a whole new school somewhere, and I can start out all over again. I must say that by the time I was 10, we had lived in 10 different homes, and my dad had been married 3 times, and so I had 3 different sets of mothers. And I mean, some people, their heads popped when I told them that. To me, I didn't know anything. I didn't know anything else. So I was always looking forward to moving into either a bigger house or a smaller house, a newer car or an older car. It was always something new was coming around.
What about acting then? Where did that come from? Were the movies your source of solace, or I mean, were you a dreamer? What
I was in a bit of a dream world constantly. I spent a lot of time by myself, just kind of like being influenced by popular culture. My older brother was very funny, and we had a lot of routines that we were able to develop. We spent an awful lot of time alone. There was 2.5 years my father wasn't married, and it was just myself, my brother, and my older sister. set loose in this apartment, and all we did was wreak havoc amongst ourselves. But for days and days and days, we would just entertain ourselves because my dad bought such a cheap TV that the knobs fell off it after a while, and we couldn't change the channel any longer. I mean, we were always trying to do it with a pair of pliers. That's how bad we were with tools.
You had, according to research, you had an ambition to be an astronaut at this time.
I thought being an astronaut would be a magnificent thing, but even I knew I didn't have the mathematic skills. So if they had really good computers back then, I would have had a shot. But they all had to be engineers and scientists and whatnot. But I thought it was a very, very...
But then you used to sit in the swimming pool pretending you were an astronaut.
Oh, Lord, yeah. Yeah. Well, see, that's why I wanted to go into space, just to float around. I just wanted to go out on a spacewalk. And the closest I could come to it was we had above-ground pools. I don't know what you'd call them in England. They would call them doughboy pools. Yeah. You know, it's a corrugated piece of metal and a little rubber thing. You sit in it until there's so much algae and germs in it that you have to drain it out. Otherwise, you're going to poison the neighborhood. So I would go out there at 3 feet of water, and I would put a brick in the back of my pants. And sometimes I'd go out sort of like fully clothed because I wanted to like pretend I had a spacesuit on. So I'd put a brick in the back of my pants, and I didn't have gloves, but I put socks on my hands so that they would look like I'd look like an astronaut in a pressure suit. And I would drape a garden hose over the side of the pool so I could breathe it. And I just lay there on my back, you know, with this brick in my pants, just kind of like letting my limbs float around with it sucking air through a garden hose under 3 feet. It's not easy to do because the pressure. So I was down there for hours. And I'd be there for an hour and a half or so, and my family would come out. Where's Tom? Oh, the garden hose. Oh, Tom's in floating. It's doing a spacewalk in the pool again. I'd be there with my socks on my hands. And I would bring like little toy, sticks, or, I'd bring some, like a spatula from my mom's kitchen and pretend it was a space-age device and to be a ladder, and I'd pretend to be fixing the ladder, just down there for the longest time. And finally, my older brother, he'd come out and he'd take the hose, and of course he'd crimp it, and I'd fight like that. And it's very hard to get up off the bottom of a pool when you have a brick in the back of your pants. So I had a few crises in space even then that I have to get over with.
And then, of course, it happened. You actually did the film Apollo 13, and there you were in space.
And I must say, I was way ahead of Kevin Bacon and Bill Paxton, because
you'd already done it.
I'd spent all that time sucking air out of a garden hose.
You went in the Vomit Comet.
Oh, that was magnificent.
What was that? Explain that.
Well, sometimes it's like a British air flight. Oh, my God. It is this magnificent, it's a 706, it's a huge plane that's all bare on the inside. And they train astronauts in it. They go up over this parabola, and as you're going up and over, just like a roller coaster, you start falling as fast as the plane is falling. So on the inside, it would appear that you're floating, and everything in the plane floats up. And we built the set for the lunar module, the command module in there. And we actually shot the film in between vomits. And it worked okay once we got it down.
Joys of filmmaking. Of course, I mean, it is wonderful, isn't it, from that point of view, that you become many things through being an actor, particularly a film actor. I mean, in your life, you've been the astronaut, and you know what it's like to be a castaway, you know, like to be a gangster. You also know what it's like to kiss Meg Ryan.
It's not a bad gig.
No.
But we didn't. Honestly, Meg and I have not done that much kissing in our films. I mean, we're America's sweethearts, but we only kiss at the end of all these movies. We gotta do a film where we're together a little bit more.
Yeah. What's it like kissing your wife's best friend, though?
Well, it's not, around, and there's a lot of stuff on, and you got to do it in the right place. It's not the most romantic of atmospheres.
It's not.
Quite frankly, no.
I was hoping for a more interesting answer than that, actually. Are you happy being an actor? Are you satisfied?
Oh, I'm the happiest, luckiest man in the world.
Why did you say that?
Well, long ago, I was sitting in a theater somewhere, and I was looking at people performing up on stage, and I thought, wait a minute, they do this every night. This is what their job is. They come and they plan their day around this, and they're either backstage or they're on stage, or they're performing, they're pretending to be other people, and this is their job. I couldn't imagine a better way of larceny. I think it's just the most magnificent gig in the world. I mean, I get together with people to figure out stories and figure out ways in order to present them, and Sometimes it's very hard work, it's very complicated, but more than anything else, it's a wonderful reason to get up in the morning and go off and make a buck.
Yeah, it's one of the movies that I loved of yours most of all was because I particularly, again, like that period of the Second World War, was Saving Private Ryan. Which seemed to me that what you and Spielberg did in that film, and later on with Band of Brothers, you reminded us of what an extraordinary generation that was, and what we owed them, in a sense.
Well, I think because Steven was obviously going to, he was going to use every tool at his disposal as a maker of films. I always felt that we were going to be blazing some new territory in that here was this mythic story that had been, I think, reduced to an almost an asterisk when it came down to history, and we forget that these were 19-year-old boys. And I mean, I was 40 years old when we shot that, and I was 16 years too old to be a captain in the Rangers. I should have been 26 years old, and they would have called me Pops. The thing that truly amazes me about that, as we're young, we all think we're invulnerable. When you're growing up in our 20s, we think we're invulnerable. We think we're smarter than anybody else, and we think that we are somehow going to be eternal. And I think that generation of people really were part of something that was eternal. I mean, you could just take a stroll probably right from the studio right now and be in a very historic place where very terrible things happened because truly bad guys wanted to enslave us and take over the world. Yes. And here was a bunch of folks who said, we're not going to let that happen.
That first opening, 20 minutes or so of that movie it's cinema history, basically. I mean, if you want to know approximately, I guess, what it's like to be in a war, that was as near as you could get in cinema. When you were doing that, did you know what was going to happen?
The very first day that I shot, the rest of the unit was up and still around the trailers. They were getting ready to come down to work, and I got called down to grab some quick shots in the landing craft, and I was just in the back. And look, I've made movies, I know how it goes. We're joking around. We got our stuff on. I got the other actors with me, and the special effects guys were lining up some stuff. And Steven, gave you turn around, let me see your face, say the line. When you come back, then everything will happen, and just make a move like you're going, or jump over the side of the landing craft. I said, okay, I can handle that. Well, when action went on, before I knew it, this noise, it's louder than anything I heard, which was all the automatic weapon fire and the tanks and whatnot going off. But then, the 8 rows of human beings before me disintegrated. I mean, they blew up. There was pink blood in the air and bits of flesh and bits of bone, and it was spread out all over us, and I was completely unprepared for this. And I thought, okay, I see what Steven's going for now, and I literally, I had a bit of a handshake because it was just so graphic. Now, I knew it was fake. I know we're making a movie, but still, it was because we were there, because it was the sound, because it was so loud. I did go into the water. We grabbed a couple more shots. Then I went back up to where the guys were, Vin Diesel and Eddie Burns and Tom Sizemore. I said, guys, hold on to your hats. You're not going to believe what's going on down there. We're in for 3 weeks here that's probably going to change us as human beings. And I don't really think it did.
And that's playing at it, isn't it?
And that was just that was us knowing fully well that the worst thing that could happen for us is we might twist our ankle.
You see, also too, I mean, from my perspective, being an interviewer, that generation of actors too were remarkable as well because they had a hinterland, because they'd been to war. They'd experienced all that. I remember interviewing one of your great heroes, Jimmy Stewart.
Oh, well, he flew. I mean, he put in his missions there, a Liberator. He flew B-26s somewhere just around here.
And he was a hero of yours too, wasn't he?
Well, he's an amazing man, I think that he and his good friend, Henry Fonda, I'll talk about him like I know them. He and his good pal, Hank Fonda. I think there was a handful of people that were, I mean, they invented the art form. They invented this naturalistic style of screen acting that has never been bested or bettered. I mean, other people can come along and follow in their footsteps and try to do what they want to do, but they had this ease about who they were, and they also had this massive, beautiful volume of work. I mean, Jimmy Stewart probably made how many films? 80 films or whatnot? Sure, I won't even be able to come close to that. Yes. I wish I could, but he was the real deal who invented it all.
Did he ever offer you any advice at all?
He did. I had my photograph taken with him for Life magazine. I was making Turner and Hooch, and they said, go to Jimmy Stewart's house and get your photograph taken. I said, so I showed up, and I said, I am not going to ask him questions about acting. I'm not going to be that brand of a pest. I'll ask them about making radio shows, which they did in the old days, and I ask them about flying. And eventually we were chatting, and then he said, I can't do a Jimmy Stewart. He says, you're doing pretty good, pretty good. I said, oh, thank you, Mr. Stewart. Just keep those grosses up. And I was making Turner Hooch at the time, so I said I'll do my best in order to keep those grosses up.
Now, this film, Road to Perdition. I mean, it's a difficult question to answer. You spent the movie. I suppose you're fed up with it when you've come around time to talk about it.
Not that bad.
Not that bad. But I mean, where do you place it? I mean, are you able to look at it and be very satisfied with it?
No, it's very hard for me to look at it. If it would change, if I would change in it, that might be the case. But I really can't stand. I can't stand watching myself. I want to see it once because I want to see what Sam did, and I want to see what Paul did, and Jude and Danny. I want to see how everybody interacts. But after that initial go-round, it pains me to no end to have to look at it again.
Okay, well, thank you very much indeed for
great pleasure.
I've really enjoyed it. And
may I stay and see your next guest?
Are you a rock and roller, Monkey?
Well, yeah, don't let the suit fool you.
Tom Hanks, thank you very much indeed. Tom Hanks.
Great pleasure. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. One critic said of my next guest that in a career spanning 35 years, he'd become the most influential artist in the history of rock music. He's still making records. His latest album is called Heathen. His latest single, Everyone Says Hi. Ladies and gentlemen, David Bowie.
They said you took a big trip, said you moved away. It happened all so quietly, so they say. I should have took a picture, something I could keep. I'd buy you a little frame, something cheap for you. Everyone says hi. They said you took a big ship. They said you sailed away. Didn't know the right things to say. I'd love to get a letter. I'd love to know what's what. I hope the weather's good and it's not too hot for you. Everyone says hi. Everyone says hi. Everyone says, don't stay in a sad place where they don't care how you are. Everyone says hi. All the Everyone says hi. 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 And the girl next door. Everyone says hi. And the guy upstairs. Everyone says hi. 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 And your mom and dad. Everyone says hi. And the big fat dog. Everyone says hi. 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 Thank you very much. Great pleasure. Hi, Tom. Hi, Dave. Here we are. Indeed. Thank you.
One or two from Brixton in tonight, eh?
Just a couple, yeah.
Just one or two,
A
yeah.
couple of back on some. Actually, I think I recognise a lot of people from Hatfield there.
I'm
So thanks
disappointed.
for reminding me and coming out about the garden hose, the breathing through.
Yes.
I thought I was the only one. You know? How did you do? I did it like that.
That's a tough way. I'm disappointed. I was told he might appear wearing the Little Richard jacket. Eh?
Yes.
Your great hero, which now you've acquired.
I've now acquired that through my wife. It was one of our wedding anniversaries a few months ago. And my idol when I was a kid was Little Richard. And she knew that, so she found one of his old original stage jackets, 1956, and she got it for me for an anniversary present. And the thing, Little Richard, the guy is huge. This guy, I can use it as a tent in the garden. I basically wear it on stage. I mean, he must have had like really little legs.
And a big body.
You know, and a big body, because
Yeah.
the sleeves are down there on me. I saw him first in 1963, I think it was. And I think it might have been at the Brixton Odeon. I don't know, somebody remember the tour. Everybody remembers everything these days. And the Rolling Stones were opening up for him. It was the first time I ever saw him. And they weren't really very well known. There's about 6 kids rushed to the front, you know. That was their fan base at the time. Everybody was there for Little Richard. And I think Bo Diddley was on the show and all that. And it was priceless. I'd never seen anything so rebellious in my life. Some guy yells out, "Get your hair cut." And Mick says, and I'll never forget these words, "What, and look like you?" I thought, oh my God, this is the future of music.
But was
And sure enough,
But was it music that engaged you, or was it the sort of showmanship of it all?
it was really the music and the showmanship of it all. It was the combination, I think. I mean, I remember my mother was really, she didn't realise what she was starting, but she would always say at breakfast, "Oh, I could have been a singer, you know," and then she'd sing, and there was this thing on radio, Two-Way Family Favourites, I remember, on a Sunday, when I was about 6, and every Sunday without fail, this thing by Ernest Luft was sung, and it was "Oh, for the Wings of a
That's not
Dove."
the voice soprano.
He was a boy soprano. Yeah, he's dead now, isn't he?
Yeah, he's dead.
Yeah, and he was, what, 90 when he died?
His voice went before he died.
Oh, is that what it is? And my mother would say, "Oh, for the wings of a dove, far away, and all this. And she was really good, and I thought, that's, you know, maybe she would be a singer. You know, she'd be a great singer.
Yes.
So that was like one of my first influences, I think, was Ernest Luft. Over in Windsor.
But I mean, there you were in Brixton, and then in Bromley.
And then in Bromley, yeah.
Then in Bromley. I mean, and it was just that one moment, was it seeing Little Richard, that decided this is the
It was
life
seeing
for me,
Ernest
lads.
Luft, actually.
Seeing
I went
Ernest
along to
Luft
the church and I saw him singing along there, and I thought, oh, that's what... But there were weird notes in that, and there were other things on the radio that really committed me to the idea of music, because it was the pieces of music that didn't... They kind of broke my expectations. I remember also in those days there was Holst's Planet Suite got played a lot, especially Mars. As the do. And those notes were so weird. It didn't follow anything that I knew, you know. And songs like that and pieces of music where the notes didn't go the right way really got me, like Tubby the Tuba. Remember Tubby the Tuba?
Yeah, Sparky and the Magic Piano.
No, that had a regular, that was a kind of a...
Sorry, I mentioned that. Right.
No, not Sparky the Piano.
Tubby the Tuba.
Well, that one. There was this weird bit. Don't forget that. It was that note.
Yeah.
It was like awkward, you know.
Extraordinary beginning to where you got to, into some rock and roll.
Yeah, well, but I like Little Richard along with this stuff.
But you mentioned, though, when you saw Little Richard, you mentioned an interesting word, rebellion.
Yeah.
You mentioned. I mean, what was the purpose of your rebellion? What was it?
Oh, I don't think I really ever had a rebellion.
Oh, you could...
No. Only against my mother and father, really. It was really no wider than that. You know, it wasn't against the world generally. I wanted to get a lot of the world. I wanted as much as I could get, so...
Well, what was wrong with your mum and dad?
They you up, your mum and dad.
That's what Larky said. But do you believe that to be true?
With my mother, yeah. My dad was very... Said, "What the you up, your mum and dad?" Yeah. They may not mean to, but they do. And they fill you full of faults they had. And they add some extra just for you. The last verse is great, though. What was the last verse? Do you remember?
I don't.
It's man hands misery onto man. It deepens like a coastal shelf. So get out as soon as you can and don't have any kids yourself. Now that's an English poem, isn't it?
So you didn't like your mum and dad or what they'd done to you?
Wings of a dove. There's a funny note in that one, you see.
Yeah.
Weird, isn't it?
So, what I'm trying to get at now, I'm even more confused than when I first started, but...
Oh, you don't know, I confuse
Mr.
myself
Hanks is
sometimes.
totally confused.
No, he's not.
No, I'm
don't
still
let the suit fool you.
Yeah, I'm still going through Tubby the Tuba in my head.
Where did Ziggy Stardust come from?
Oh Lord, I don't know.
Was that the rebellion? Was it that was creating this kind of alter
It was.
ego?
Well, you know, the thing is, I never really wanted. I never thought that I could sing very well, and I used to kind of try on people's voices if they appealed to me. When I was a kid, about 15, 16, I got into Anthony Newley like crazy because a couple of things about him. One, before he came to the States and did the whole Las Vegas thing, he really did bizarre things over here. A television series he did called The Strange World of Gurney Slade.
I remember it.
Which was so odd and off the wall. And I thought, I like what this guy's doing, where he's going. It's really interesting. And so I started singing songs like him, but I was reading a lot of stuff like by the Angry Young Men generation, you know, and Keith, who is it? Was it Waterhouse?
Keith Waterhouse.
Yeah, Keith Waterhouse and John Osborne and stuff like that. And so I was writing these really weird Tony Newley type songs, but the lyrics are about like lesbians in the army and cannibals and paedophiles and things like that. It was this kind of, you know, I thought, yeah, this is my bag. This is what my career is going to be like. And the first album really is the most extraordinary piece of work in that way.
Yeah.
I mean, utterly forgettable, but it's...
But
there's no faulting its ambitions.
But what about that sort of androgynous appeal that you developed? I mean, where did that come from? That sort of feminine side of you?
Oh, that's just me being camp, really.
But when did you first start being camp?
When I put those clothes on, funnily enough. Amazing what it does to you when you drag up for the first time, isn't it, Tom?
It gave me a lucrative career for a while, anyway.
No, I tell you what was even funnier, though, was getting my band to put the clothes on. because my band were all from Yorkshire. I've got to tell you my...
Tadcaster, isn't it?
Yeah, well, somewhere between Tadcaster, Doncaster and York. So he's from there, and my mother's family were all from Lancashire. So when I hear somebody, I'm nearly there, you know, I want to be... I've supped some stuff to eat. I can't help it. It's, so I'm trying desperately not to get into a accent. It's really hard.
They do it very well.
You sound like my dad, you see. It's really off-putting. I won't look at you.
All right.
I will, actually, because he was a good man. So these guys all came from Hull, you know, we're going to play a rock and roll band, they like the songs and all that. And I said, yeah, it's great. So, do you want to see what we're going to wear? Oh, yeah, right. Okay. Not wear. Not bloody right, I'm not putting that on. I said, no, believe me, you look great. It'll really suit you. Yeah, right. And so I don't know how I did it, but I managed to talk them into doing it. And a couple of nights later, we'd done a couple of shows, and all these girls were all over them. And suddenly the dressing room procedure was really different. It's right. Who's got the blush? Hey, Trevor, have you finished with that mascara? It was a phenomenal thing. Amazing. A little bit of eyeliner.
So when you look back on that now, do you remember? Obviously,
I look at them as rarely as possible.
Do you remember it fondly?
I do. Yes, absolutely. We had some wild times. It was a fantastic period. We had no idea what we were doing. We really didn't know which way the whole thing was going. I just knew that I was getting bored very quickly. That's the great tragedy of it, I suppose, in my eye. Well, no, not really, because it was great to let go of it, but I tend to grasshopper about. My attention span is very short, as you can probably gather. And there was a period after, we were only together for 18 months. The whole thing was over in 18 months, the whole Ziggy Stardust thing. And a good halfway through, 9, 10 months into it, I knew it was over already, and I just wanted to move somewhere else. There's a new kind of music I wanted to write, something, a different kind of theatricality I wanted to bring into it, and all that, and it was... the last few months, I was really like treading water. I couldn't wait to finish. And you know, the amazing thing is that you nearly threw all that away, all that creativity, through drugs, and you got through it in the end. Yeah, well, I guess all that period was pretty fine, you know. It was the later years, the later part of the 70s. But my story in terms of drugs and the alcohol and all that is no different to anybody else's, and it's almost a textbook story. So.
Except you survived it.
Yeah, well, a lot of us did, you know. I'm not the only one by any means.
Just tell me, because it's fascinating research. Right. So you saw a guy on CNN, a doctor, was talking about the effect that cocaine had on the human brain. I don't know if it changed your mind about drugs, but certainly had an effect of making you not want to take drugs. Oh,
that actually, yes, no, that didn't put me off at all, actually, when I saw that. I saw that it was in the 70s, and I saw that and I said, whoa, too cool. I mean, it was like, there was showing a brain of cocaine users and all the holes that were in it. They're great, huge holes. I thought, yeah, that's me. It didn't occur to me that this was a bad thing. I mean, that didn't come for quite a while later. Really.
And what started the change? What was it?
You can't have relationships with anybody. You don't know anybody else exists. It's just, you become a really dreadful person, you know. And I just think I got fed up with being a dreadful person. That's really as simple as that. And I guess I was lucky that I was able to knock it on the head, you know.
And what about being a new father now? Because you've got a 2-year-old child now, haven't you?
Yeah, I have indeed. A wonderful little girl, Alexandria, and also a wonderful boy, 31 years old.
Yes.
So I've got two. And I've got also a stepdaughter, of course, Zuleika, who's 21.
One imagines, of course, then that the 31-year-old, when that period of time when you had the boy,
yeah.
That in fact you were kind of an absent father in many ways.
I was. I mean, you know, I was on tour all the time. I was very ambitious. I was young. I was keen to go and do these stage things. And I was just whizzing around the world half the time, you know.
And now, of course, you've got time to still relive that, in fact, recapture
Absolutely.
it.
Yeah. I mean, I was very lucky in a way. I mean, the marriage, of course, went hopelessly wrong very early. But Joe was with me since he was 5, 6 years old, so I was kind of a one-parent family since he was that age.
Are you a sort of new-age father now? Are you a nappy changer? Come on, Raymond.
No, I'm ridiculously Victorian. I'm absolutely hopeless at that kind of thing. I've got a huge admiration for guys who can get in there like that. I just can't. I mean, well, I didn't. My wife didn't let me, which was great. She was, oh, get out of here, you know, and she was like pinning and wrapping things up, and, you know, I knew there was some kind of, something in there was being prepared, and at the end of it all, my little daughter came out. It was great. But I'm good at saying, this is a book, and we're going to look at this, and, you know, come to this museum, and I'm kind of fairly good like that, I think.
Yes. Well, what about, how much now is left of the lad from Brixton, do you think?
Not very much, I think. I mean, you know...
What moves on?
I never became who I should have been until maybe 12, 15 years ago. I spent an awful lot of my life, as I think most people in so-called entertainment industry, actually looking for myself, you know, and understanding what it was that what I existed for, what was it that really made me happy in life, and who exactly I was, and who are the parts of myself I was trying to hide from a lot. You know, it's like exposing yourself. And I think a lot of us are, one, dysfunctional in show business, pretty dysfunctional, and two, in huge senses of denial about who we are and where we exist in the world. There's some kind of traumatism often goes on in our childhoods, I think, that makes us crave some kind of strange affection, you know. It's sort of, and often you'll find that the person who craves a lot of affection actually isn't terribly good at giving it. And I found that all my life, especially in the 70s, I was like that. I really wanted to sort of, you know, be very emotionally involved with people. I didn't know how to do it. You know, my parents were like that. And I guess you kind of, as I say, Larkin's right in that way. You know, they pass on a lot of faults.
Yeah. Do you buy that, Tom?
Yeah, I think it's very true. We're in a narcissistic business. We're constantly figuring, how do I do that? What do I have to do next? Let's talk about me. Enough about me. What do you think of these shoes? Are these good shoes that I should wear?
Right.
It's like that.
What about, and the other thing too, is the kind of problems that your children have in dealing with this kind of narcissistic approach, if you like, because the animal is that, whichever way you look at it, they can observe this kind of, the effect that fame has on you, and the way that people react differently to you than they do to other people. That's something you can't really tell them about, isn't it? I mean, they have to sort of make their own mind up about that. Is it as casual as that, or are there things you can do?
I think, well, in my situation, I think my son watched me grow up, you know, which is kind of, it was very strange for him in some ways, and sometimes I feel there's almost a protective quality about him when he's with me, you know, which is kind of...
He's looking after you?
Yeah, well, he's not, but he is, you know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
Like,
I do know.
But I also feel the same way. I really want to protect him too.
Let's hear a classic song of yours, Life on Mars. But first of all, before we hear that, tell me how you came to write this song.
Well, when I was just a little sprog.
Will you do it in a Yorkshire accent, all of it?
No. I can't do the accent. I was with a publishing company, and they were passing me songs, lots of them from the, I was going to say from the Orient. Some of them sounded like they came from the Orient. A lot of songs from Europe that they wanted me to do kind of English translations, not translations, but a new set of English lyrics for, you know. One of them was this French song that I thought was really good, and I wrote some really terrible lyric. I think it was called Even a Fool Learns to Love. And I sent it back again. I thought, oh, that's the last I heard of that. Then I hear it on the radio. I thought, that's that tune, that must be my... I thought, no, these are different lyrics. And it was Sinatra singing My Way. And I was... I wrote the lyrics. What happened? I phoned them up and said, oh, yeah, your lyrics were rubbish. And I said, I know that, but they're the ones I did. And they said, yeah, well, we got Paul Anka to do them instead, and this is My Way. And that really made me angry for so long, about a year. And eventually I wrote I thought, well, I can write something as big as that, and I'll write one that sounds a bit like it. And so I did Life on Mars, which is my sort of, you know, revenge trip on My Way.
Well, thank God you did. It's a lovely song. Shall we hear it?
Oh, yeah, okay.
All right, thank you. Your pianist, your accompanist awaits you. David Bowie, Life on Mars. David.
It's a god-awful small affair to the girl with the mousy hair, and her mommy is yelling no, and And her daddy has told her to go, but her friends are nowhere to be seen as she walks through her sunken dream to the seat with the clearest view, and she's hooked to the silver screen. But the film is a saddening bore, 'cause she's lived it 10 times or more. It's about to be lived again, as they ask her to focus on sailors fighting in the dance hall. Oh man, look at those cavemen go. It's the freakiest show. Take a look at the oh man beating up the wrong guy. Oh man, wonder if he'll ever know. It's the best-selling show. Is there life on Mars? John America's tortured brown, Mickey Mouse has grown up a cow, and the workers have struck for fame, 'cause Lennon's on sale again. See the mice in their million hordes, from Ibiza to the Norfolk Broads. Rule Britannia is out of bounds, to my mother, my dog and clowns. But the film is a saddening bore, for I wrote it 10 times or more. It's about to be writ again, as I ask you to focus on sailors fighting in the dance hall. Oh man, look at those cavemen go. It's the freakiest show. Take a look at the low man beating up the wrong guy. Oh man, wonder if he'll ever know. He's in the best-selling show. Is there life on Garson on piano.
Thank you, Robert. Did you enjoy that, Mr. Hanks?
Oh, you know...
That's going to be the ultimate in performing, actually.
Have you ever stayed at the Sunset Marquis Hotel in Los Angeles?
No.
Yes. Legendary place.
Well.
Legendary place.
Yeah,
and
been to a few parties.
I've gotten lost there a few times.
Yeah.
But the patio is split right in half. There's actors on one side and there's musicians on the other. And the musicians are all looking at the actors. Oh, look at those actors. They've got it so easy. They just say the lines. It's people who write for them. They don't have to The actors were all looking at the musicians. Look at those musicians. They've got it so easy. All they do is play the guitar and stand up and sing.
And then you got the comedians down the end.
Yeah, they're all goofing around.
Putting everybody.
Yeah, they're asking you what you'd like to have to drink with your sandwich.
That's absolutely true. I know every musician I know either wants to be an actor or a comedian. And comedians likewise want to be actors or musicians. And I think there's quite a few actors who would want to do.
But you're happy doing what you're doing,
Oh, absolutely. Completely.
You find yourself at a kind of a lagoon state of life now.
Really?
I think so.
Oh, that's very nice.
That's
with the hose.
Breathing through the
What more
nose.
can I want?
So, David, then, so after this, what? You're on tour at present? And
I'm going. I want to see. I'm missing my wife and baby like crazy, and you know, have a good long writing thing afterwards, and. Whoops! I didn't want to go there. And then Christmas comes, and we'll be, you know, sort of going through all that. And I think my daughter's ready to really take the tree in now. You know, 2.5. It'll make sense, won't it?
Well, thank you for talking to me tonight. I've really much enjoyed it, and I hope to.
It's been a
do
great
it again
pleasure
sometime.
meeting you both. It's been lovely.
David Bowie. Before we go, the eagle-eyed would have noticed a bigger studio band than hitherto. That's because we thought in future we'd close with a tribute to the big bands of yesteryear. This one is Billy May's arrangement of Skyliner, originally recorded by the Charlie Barnett Band. I wonder who knows all this stuff. Tonight, Laurie Holloway is in charge. So until next week, next Saturday indeed, from all of us here, a very good night. Good night.